Hi everybody, this is Bentley the Compost Guy Christie here, and I want to talk to you about when to harvest vermicompost. I received a question from Steve, and Steve was wondering when is the best time to harvest vermicompost, i.e. what should it look like, how broken down, etc. I know that it depends and that you have commented on this in the past, but it seems like a common question without a detailed answer. Well, thanks Steve, this is a great question and you're absolutely right. This is something that a lot of people are probably wondering about. I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to say that it does depend, but I'll tell you what I think it depends on. Number one, it depends on the type of system being used. One system to the next can vary a great deal, and when that vermicompost is ready is also going to vary quite a lot. Number two, it depends on what the material is being used for. What is the end use for this particular vermicompost? There's different grades of vermicompost and certainly all kinds of different applications for using that material. So that'll certainly have an impact. In general, what we're aiming for is that dark sort of soil compost type of material that has that rich earthy smell, somewhat moist, but definitely not wet. If you can squeeze lots of water out of it, it's definitely too wet. But then on the other end of the scale, if it's just dry and powdery and blows away, obviously that is way too dry. So somewhere in between those two extremes. In terms of appearance, it'll probably look something like this. The color can vary a fair amount depending on what the food material was. It can be a light brown all the way up to almost a black, but it should have that nice crumbly appearance in general. And this is more of a finished, refined material, and I'll show you more of a coarse material a bit later on, but just to give you some idea of what we're looking for. I know that a lot of people using plastic bins are probably used to something that looks a bit more like this, unfortunately, or if you are lucky and if you completely neglected the bin, a lot of times you can end up with this stuff that actually does look pretty nice. But the problem with these bins is that they're so wet, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that's dumped out a plastic bin to find this stuff in the bottom of it. Smells pretty bad. It's certainly not rich stabilized vermicompost, and it's not ready to be used in the garden like that. So what we need to do is take a few additional steps. Generally speaking, with a plastic bin, what I recommend is waiting until it's about 50% full or a bit more with a sort of dark looking material down on the bottom. Remove all the excess unprocessed stuff, and then you're going to dump it out. You probably want to put it on some cardboard or in an open shallow tray to let it dry, and while it's drying you've got to break it up during that process. Otherwise you're going to end up with basically solid rock, and it's going to be no good to you. I mean, I'm sure you can still use it in the garden, but it's certainly not going to be that nice crumbly material that we're after. The flow through bin, it's a much different story. Generally speaking, you're going to end up with some compost after 2 to 3 months perhaps, and this stuff's going to be ready to use as is. You may want to screen it if you want it to be a sort of finer consistency, but generally speaking, flow through systems, because of the aeration, because of that oxygen, you're going to end up with a really nice material a lot more easily. So what is your use? This can have a big impact, as mentioned. Are you going to put in potted plants, selling it to customers? Are you in business kind of thing? Are you making vermicompost tea, top dressing, vermimulch? A wide range of different potential uses, and what you're going to be using it for can have a big impact on when you want to use it. I myself am a big fan of the coarse vermicompost, this stuff that I call compost ecosystem. You might say that it's been sort of kissed by worms. It's not fully processed. It's certainly not worm castings. And I love creating these in situ type of composting systems like my vermicomposting trenches or vermimulch systems, where I essentially create a vermicomposting system in and around where the plants are growing. And you can see I've added some alpaca manure here as an additional food source, and then the worms continue to grow and live in the immediate area and continue to fertilize the plants as they grow. For those of you using the more refined stuff, this is great for the worm tea and just generally for smaller applications. According to research, you only need about 5 to 20% by volume of this material in order to have a big impact. It's really nice stuff, but when you're getting closer and closer to pure castings, you want to use quite a bit less of it. You're not going to use it like a bulk material or a mulch, generally speaking. So that's basically it. That's my time, Steve. Thank you very much for the question. I hope that helps to answer your question. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next